Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
And Tane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Kia ora koutou, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. And again, it's just me. You had Tane last week, but he's disappeared to do some other cool things again. He does all the cool things, but hey, I get to do cool things by being on this podcast. Yeah. As always, we share what we've put into our basket of knowledge. And the one thing that I'm going to bring my basket of knowledge is I am an extended practitioner. And this morning we ran a facilitation. One of the things that really stands out for me is that it's all great when you know your personality style, whether it's Clifton, whether it's Edith, whatever style it is. But the true strength in any of those tools is when you understand other people's styles and how other people work and how other people really operate. Because in NLP, all communication is the result that you get as opposed to intention. So the same thing when I think about Clifton or Myers-Briggs or whatever, you can understand yourself and claim that, but that means nothing in the context of the world that you live in. And they got me thinking about lots of different things and how we always put ourselves at the center of the universe sometimes, and we forget about we're not the center. And it's just a reminder that we can be aware, but the awareness is only powerful when you have activity around the awareness. So my challenge to you listening out there is when you become aware of your strengths, your weaknesses, how does it actually look like when you talk to other people in your sphere of influence? So that's my learning over the last week. But today, it's not about me, it's not about Tana, it's about our guests. And as always, we scour the country, we scour the world to find people that are interesting, and whether everyone's interesting, everyone's got a story to share. And today's guest is someone that, just before we jumped to the podcast, we were just talking about where we connected. We connected during our NLP training a few years ago, quite randomly online. And then our lives departed a little bit as life happens. And then over the last few months, for those of you that listen to the podcast, you know that LinkedIn is one of my favorite playgrounds. And our guest today just popped on my LinkedIn feed and with some amazing content all the time, but not just amazing, but also real content. And it's someone that we are very lucky, very privileged, and very honored to have with us today. So a big welcome to Baskets of Knowledge, Kristin, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. It's like, woohoo!
Woohoo! And we're recording on a Monday, so that excitement is even better.
It's a great Monday. I love Mondays. Who doesn't love Mondays?
Yeah, who doesn't? Kristin, for people who know nothing about you, who is Kristin today on the 10th of November, 2025?
Who is Kristin? What a great question, right? So this Kristin has recently put herself through her own frameworks where she's been helping people get work. And what's been really exciting is the fact that I have held my career for so long. I think about it, I've been a leader for nearly 30 years. And in that time, I've had so many learnings and lessons, and I am excited to be able to share them wider. And oh my goodness, I'm so nervous. I have to stop. I'm overthinking this. Oh my goodness, this is awful. I reckon you should just keep this in because it's
We'll keep it in.
We can feel my neck. Look. So, do you know what that is? That is me overthinking it. That is that little voice going, you're getting excited. Oh yes, and you're like, are you sure you're going to be doing this? Who's going to be even listening to this, right? And my son just said to me, Mum, what? You're going to be on a podcast? He's like, really? So there was this little bit of disbelief there, right? And maybe that's what reached me just then. But anyway, let me start that again. So who am I? What I say to people, I'm a mum.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I'm a mum. I have 3 beautiful children, a beautiful Hayley, 28. I have a Blake who's 16 and a son Carter who's 13. And I have a hubby, Jamie. And we have 2 fluffy girls as well. So Coco and Zoe. Everything I do is for them. All right. So throughout my life, I have been a working mum from day dot. I've always had this ambition to really put my best foot forward. And and that's what I've done. And through that, I have learnt so much about myself. Like, I have learnt to understand what are my wins and what are my losses. And what are the things where I could have pivoted and done things differently? But, none of that has actually come easy at all,
Yeah.
right? So, kind of how to career in corporate, leading teams ultimately, and I love it. And the last maybe 18 months has been, it's almost like I feel like I've been reborn.
Love
Seems
it.
a little bit weird, but and a little bit woo-woo, but hey, it's what happens maybe when you turn 50, is that I feel like I've broken through the door.
Yeah.
This, it's really hard I can visualize it, but it's really hard to describe it. And since then, I feel like I found my voice. I've had this air of confidence, and I know I have,
Yeah.
right, about myself. Um, I also know exactly what I do well and what I don't, and I'm not afraid to say it anymore. I think I used to be afraid. If I reflect back and I'm really honest, I used to be afraid when I was thinking of that. And so I have all of a sudden used all of my experience, my wisdom, and my learnings over the last 18 months. And I feel like I have come out the other side. And so, who is that person? That is someone who is generous, who wants to give and help people, help them put their best foot forward, and be the best that they can. Because what I've realized is that I'm actually no one special, and I don't say that in a disregard of who I or derogatory about myself. I say it and being kind. Look, I've still got this.
But
I should have had a fan. God, this is going to be funny to watch. I need one of those emojis, right? Um, but like when I look back, do you know, it's because of all the experiences that I've gone through that have shaped me. And then it's actually owning when things haven't gone wrong where I've played a part in it. And it's actually taken the time to step out of me and look back and actually be honest with what I did, where I was at, etc. Right? And so to me, all of this has shaped who I am today. So that's why I love to share my tips and tricks because oh my God, I've had so many fuck-ups over the years that were really unnecessary, to be
yeah.
honest. Yeah, really unnecessary. And and I just think if someone had have helped me a little, just even just the tiniest, given me some insights or hey, maybe try this, then I just think not that I wished a different path, because I don't. I love who I am and I love where all those experiences that I've had because it shapes who I am today. But I also have gone through a lot of heartbreak, right? Whether that's been I remember having my team, in a horseshoe around me, giving me feedback, like constructive feedback. And it was like I was in the firing line from the firing squad. Clearly, they were pissed at me.
Yeah.
And I remember going out in like after the meeting and absolutely bawling my eyes out because I was so embarrassed, but and it's even like I feel a little literally like starting to kind of welt up. I was
Yeah.
so embarrassed. And it was never my intention, but obviously the way I was behaving was racking people up and not in a positive way. But those experiences has made me who I am today. And so I think it's important that people understand that that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as you're learning from stuff, right?
Totally. Totally.
I didn't really answer your question in a
Oh,
nice, succinct
that
sentence.
does
It's like
we don't,
I've started here and I've gone all the way back and then all the way back. People might be listening to
that's
this going, she's a friggin' nutcase.
all the again, this is exactly how my brain works as well. So, you just never know. And I want to just point out something really, really, really important that happened right at the start. You mentioned that you've been a leader for 30 years, but then the voice of doubt came into play. And I want to say that because, a lot of us in the world, we think that, oh, someone's a leader or someone's whatever insert certain title, therefore they don't experience doubt, they don't experience imposter, they don't
Yeah,
experience all the things that everyone feels. But you just exhibited right there, that actually doesn't actually matter what your what you're still human. And as you said before,
Yeah,
you're not special, but you are, but you're still human. You have all those
that's
human
it.
emotions, and I think that's really important to raise. So whether we laugh or we cry about what happened, it's just a reality of this is who we are, and we're not polished people, we're not polished humans. We make mistakes, but we still have those fears.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, we place these expectations, we want it to be polished,
Yeah,
right? Because we want to look good and we want people to like us and we want to get the accolades. And if you know a bit of your personality style, I'm a peacock, right?
yeah,
I love the recognition. If I work for an organization and I've got awards, like I'm currently working for Fisher Funds and I've just joined them. And they're talking about they want to be number one in the market. And I'm like sitting there, this is like 5 days in, going, booyah, this is
this is
exciting. Do you know? I
yeah,
can't. And they're all like, yeah, we're excited you've joined the team. And I'm like, I'm excited,
yeah,
hearing that they have this great vision and ambition just fuels me because I like to be my best.
yeah,
So when I got on the podcast and then I started to gibber, had the little self-doubt, it just derailed me like instantly,
yeah.
So, but yeah, don't cut it. I was like wanting you to cut it, and I'm so glad you didn't. It didn't
Yeah,
pause.
no, it's important. We're like because it's real. We all go through these things here, and but also as you spoke about, your little summary there as well. You
Yeah,
spoke about the failures that you've gone through, but the failures are
yeah,
not failures. They're just things where as you said before, you fall down, you get up again, and you learn from them. But
correct.
I love what you said about you wish someone had told you stuff.
Yeah,
It wouldn't change your trajectory. The way it would change your impact at that point in time because you know what when I lead my team or when I lead a team and I'm like if I can avoid someone making the same mistake I made, then it's
yeah,
just going to make their life so much easier and they can actually go on
yeah,
to
right.
different things. So if you think about if someone had said to you, hey Kristen, your leadership style is pretty shitty at that point in time, you need to change this up here, you would have saved that whole conversation and you would have just changed your whole but you live and learn and the world's a different
Yeah,
place.
yeah. I look back and I think if I hadn't have got that feedback, what a shit leader I'd be today.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, I'd be like, oh my goodness. So I'm so grateful for it. Like, so grateful. Like, I remember even one of my bosses, um, because spelling and stuff was never really my forte. It still isn't, just by the way. Um, and so, I rely heavily on spell check and the little red squiggly line, right? And I sucked at English. I'm a numbers girl. I love numbers. So give me numbers and I'm sweet as with numbers because to me it's black and white, it's right or wrong. Whereas the language is very, like it depends how you look at it, right? So, um, and I remember I had to pull a quarterly report together for our client, and our client was like the likes of BNZ, Westpac, so big clients. And here I am writing a report, someone who sucks at blimmin' writing, doesn't really get grammar. And like my boss at the time, she was an amazing lady. So this is not a dig at her. It's not derogatory. I'm so grateful she told me this and was frank. So I took a moment to listen. And she told me I wrote childlike minded in
Mm,
the report. And I was like, God, I feel freaking insulted, right? I'd like put hours into this report. And I said to her, I don't really understand what you mean. She says the use of your language was really low. Do you know? And it's just as easy as things like instead of going, I spoke to produce, right? I engaged with them.
yeah.
That's it. That's all it was. And so she gave me a couple of tips so that I could level up my language. And I tell you what I did is, and this is the thing, right? Like I've got a cheat sheet that I share with people to help them because this is something I wish I had had. And all I did is I went back and I got a lot of the common words, right, that I was using, and I tried to find a nice word that was slicker,
Yeah.
right? And I know there's a word for it, right? And you might know it because I can't say it. Because when I was younger, I used to stutter,
Mm, yeah.
and I've had to control myself to stop the stuttering. And when I tell people that, they're like, whatever. I was like, you ask my mum and dad. My
Yeah.
dad's approach was he'd be like, Kristen, stop. He'd be like, slow down and be like, start again. And I'd have to go all the way back and start my sentence or my word again.
Yeah.
So I have difficulty saying some of these words. So, but I think it's a synonym. Is it a synonym?
Cinnamon. Yeah, cinnamon. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, there we go. So
Cinnamon.
anyway,
Yeah.
I kind of go, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I just created myself a list. And so I just learned to start swapping out the words. So I had a little cheat sheet. That's how I got around it.
Yeah.
Simple
But
as
that's,
that.
and I love that because you know your strengths, your weaknesses. So you go, how,
Yeah.
if this is the case, I'm just going to create something that's going to help me. We
That-
use the word cheat sheet, and it's like, oh, it's such a bad thing because cheats means bad. But actually, it's a great thing. If the tool is there and available, why not use it?
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But it's things like that. So, her comment and feedback to me was absolutely brutal and it hurt. It hurt to the core, right? Because that was hitting me like even as a child. Because I know I sucked, right? They used to put in spelling levels, you had to get
Yeah,
to certain levels. I never got to the top level, right? And so, that it really hurt. And it still hurts to this day. But that feedback made me do something about myself.
yeah,
I then, as a result of doing something about myself, I kept improving. And now I'm actually a really good writer.
yeah,
Do you know, it's become one of my strengths. And I'm like super stoked about it, right? Because
yeah,
on one hand, I could barely spell, and I still can't really spell that great. The language I use is like, in terms of being able to spell it, I really still struggle with it. But I know how to write really well now. And I think
yeah,
it's because I've been um, strengthening that muscle, do
yeah,
you know? And I've really been focusing on it. I'm conscious of it. So I always write, go back to my work, I sleep on it. I really ponder. I really do a lot of reflective thinking and then take stuff out of my head on paper. So I do a lot of the mulling work first. And as a result of that, I now can write really, really well. Do you know, I provided my first weekly report last week and it was so easy. Do you
yeah,
know? And I say that like quite flippantly, but previously me writing a weekly update was so hard. I'd be like, oh my God, what am I going to write about? I
yeah,
know what to write about now and I know how to frame up the story.
yeah,
I think it gives, like, to me, that just proves that if you just focus on something, like you just consistently do it,
yeah.
bite size by bite size, you strengthen it and you get better at it.
And that's everything in life, right? The more you do it, the more consistently you do it.
That's it.
And as I said, bite size doesn't have to be a 20-page essay. It can just be 5 lines, and that's it.
Correct.
5 lines. But also going back to, I want to talk about the fact that your mindset as well. So there's two mindsets that we have. When your boss had said to you, "Hey, this is childlike." Number
Yep.
one, you ask for feedback and said, "What does it actually mean?" Or you
Yep.
could have just gone, "Hey, actually, I don't believe you. I'm going to stay, and
Stay in that
just
state.
stay in that step because we have mindset, right? And I
Yep.
think this is important for our listeners and for me as well that feedback is feedback, and you don't have to agree with it, but whenever
Yep.
people give you feedback, there is some element of truth in it, and then you choose to decide whether or not you want to take that element of truth on or not.
Correct. Completely agree in that. Right. And
Yeah,
I see feedback as kind of the other way I like to see feedback is like data points.
yep,
Right. So there's signals in their data because if you get feedback that's themed,
yep,
right? Because people say to me, "Oh, well, how do you address feedback or performance? Sorry, how do you address performance, right, with someone? If you're getting all this feedback and complaints, when someone's not quite working out in the team, right? And my kind of approach that works really well, right, is that I don't focus on the actual thing that people are complaining about as such. I take a step back and I go, is there a theme coming through?
yeah,
So what are the trends and what are the themes and what are the data points, right? And that's what we want to be looking at,
100%.
um,
Yeah,
rather than the specific thing.
yeah, because that
The-
specific thing is a symptom, not the actual core,
Yeah,
not the
yeah,
actual root, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
love the way you think about that. I'm gonna rewind right back because you just introduced something that I didn't know about you. Growing
yeah,
up, you said you used to stutter. What is that like for you as a young person? And I'm framing this in the world you grew up in was very, very
yeah,
different as it is now. So you're a young female
yeah.
stuttering. what is that like for you as you were navigating the world at that time when, you know, your voice matters, but you couldn't speak, and also you're a female in a world that was dominated by males.
Yeah, the like when you stutter, it's so flippin' embarrassing. It's not funny because like you're trying, you know what you want to say, right? But you just can't, you can't get it out. Um, it's very similar to when you walk into a room, like your intention is like, I might pop upstairs, go and get something by my bed, right? And I rock upstairs and I get up there and I'm like, oh shit, what was I up here for?
Yeah.
And then you kind of come back down and you're like, oh, well, I forgot, right? To me, it's a little bit like that, right? It's frustrating because you know there's something on the tip of your tongue, but
Yes.
you can't quite like put your finger on it. So stuttering for me was that kind of feeling, right? And then on top of that, because you knew you stuttered, like see if you go into a room, like if I go upstairs and go and try and find something by my bed, right? The intention is there and I know that's what I'm doing. It's just that when I get up there, I've forgotten. I'm like, damn it, I'll get back down and I'll remember it soon.
Yeah.
But when you're stuttering, you're trying to say something in the moment.
Yes.
You don't have time to think about, oh, what was it that I went upstairs for? Oh, that's right, I forgot the blimmin' watch or whatever, the piece of my book. So then you'd go back up. But stuttering is like you're engaging in a conversation and it's like your turn to speak up.
Yeah.
And so I found it super embarrassing. So, as I am today, nice and bright red, um, is
We're gonna call you healthy. This is a healthy complexion today.
yeah, I do. I'm nice and golden and tanned, I tell
Yeah.
you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, but like so it would my blood pressure must have risen because I would blush, right? So then people would be even more to the point looking at me and stuff and spotlight.
Yeah.
So I found myself zipping it because if I knew my mind was racing too fast and it was too fast for me to get out what I needed to say, it was better for me just to keep quiet because one of the things my dad taught me, and he's a bit of a dickhead, so and I'm grateful for this. So there's not many things I am grateful from with him, but this is one of them, is that he made me slow down,
Yeah.
right? Because I get really excited. It's like I remember going into a bloody interview and they asked me uh, like, tell us a little bit about yourself, and I verbal vomited all over them, and I was like, oh shit, sorry, just a little bit excited and I can't shut up, because I clearly my brain might go a little bit on overdrive. So one of the things that Dad taught me was to stop and slow down. So, in the end, it became easy because I could just, as soon as I could, I'd just pause and I'd just give myself a little moment and then I'd start again. And I learned that really quickly because literally he wouldn't let me get away with it around the
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
As soon as I started saying it, he'd stop me,
Yeah.
right? Which I think is why people were surprised that I used to stutter as a kid. But it comes out because names, I struggle to pronounce names, some of the words, like I always struggle to say vocabulary.
Irony right there. Yeah.
Like, and so what I've done is I've just accepted it. It's like, oh well, I just make fun about it now. I just laugh. I laugh at me because I'm like, yeah. And also I get it off my mother. My mother makes up words and says gibberish words that she's like, no, that's in the dictionary, love. And I'm like, I don't think so, mum. Do you know? So we kind of laugh. It's a bit of a family trait. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think just to that though, I think what's important is not being afraid to
Yeah.
own the fact that you could be a little bit quirky, you might do things a little bit differently, it might not be as good as other people, right? And don't worry about it. We've all got our little quirks. So
Yeah.
I quite like it now.
100%. And the reason I asked that question is because you're very confident and you come across really awesomely. But we all have a story, but you still own it. It's still part of you. It's still there. It'll come out at certain points. And what I love
Yeah.
about that is because we, like I said, we all have our quirks, but we're conditioned when we're younger that we all need to fit into a certain square box. When
Yeah.
actually most of us, 95% of us, cannot fit into that box there. Yet we try and squeeze this into the box there, and it's only when you get a bit older, so when you're in your 20s and your 30s, that you start going, wait a minute, what is this? Doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
And it's okay for you to go, actually, I'm just gonna pause for a second and think about why it's not making sense to me. It's not the fact that I can fit in the box, it's the box is not made for me.
correct. And being okay with that,
Yeah,
right? Like, man, I have not fitted in boxes. Like, I remember starting a job and I was 3 months in and I knew I did not fit. Like, I knew it, and I
yeah,
hated it. I was disengaged. It was awful. And I look back and I go, what a brat you were. Do you know, because I think I was like, well, I know where I am in my career based on my daughter, how old she was. So when I reflect back, she was about a year, right? So I would have been about 23 type of thing, 24. And I look back and I'm like, oh my goodness, like how awful did I behave in that place, you know? And it's so funny because I say to people, when I look back now, it's the conversation that my boss had with me at the time. What I know as a leader was constructive dismissal. And, but I didn't see it like that, right? Because she basically set me down. She goes, it's not really working for you here, Kristen, is it? And I was like, God, no, this place sucks. Like, I'm just telling you how it is. Like, and that's one thing you get with me is like, I can be pretty frank. And it's like, yeah, this sucks. It's so boring because I'd gone from working in a call center where I'd answered 100 calls a day, like call after call after call after call. Sales target, bang, get it, get it, get it. We're changing products. We've got this promotion, we've got this campaign, and it's all hype, go, go, go. And you had to have a lot of resilience to do that job to this little
yeah,
place where I answered 10 calls. And I was like, where's the work?
yeah,
I'm like, this is so boring. I'd like to be busy. Like, give me
yeah,
more work. They're like, oh no, we need to wait. We've got work coming. And I'm like, hmm. So she sat me down and said, do you know, if you resigned, you know, we'd pay you out for the 4 weeks. And I went, really? I was like, cool. I was like, here's my resignation and walked out.
yeah.
And
Crazy.
I knew I didn't fit.
Yes.
I knew it. And I
Yeah,
didn't take that as a no, like there's something wrong with me. I just knew they were not my people.
yeah,
And I was young,
yeah,
and the thing is that I did have this confidence about me. I was very confident that I could go and get another job. 2 weeks later, I
yeah,
had another job and was paid out my 4 weeks. So to me, I was winning. Do you
yeah,
know, I was
totally.
ahead of the game.
Yeah,
I remember going home and telling my partner at the time, oh, I quit my job today. And he's like, what the fuck? And I was like, oh, I hated it. It was so boring. I said, don't worry, I'll get another job. And I did
yeah,
because I knew, like, I've always known I'm not good at everything because clearly, I've been stuttering, I can't spell, I can't write, I really challenged with writing over the years, but I knew I was good at some things. And
yeah,
so, like, if I think about that role where I came from, I knew I was good at hitting my targets because you didn't
yeah.
last if you didn't hit your targets.
100%.
Do you know? I knew I was good in terms of being good with customers because I used to be able to hit my sales as well as my call targets, right? So I was a reliable staff member as well as I hit the sales when needed. Not all the time, do you know? But sometimes I really nailed them. So I
Yeah,
knew I had some good strengths because I have proof points
yeah, 100%.
and it's
Yeah,
the proof, right? So I was confident as like, yeah, oh well, I'll go and find a new team. And the next place I worked at, I felt really at home again.
yeah,
It just shows that environment is really crucial for like thriving and not to be afraid to recognize when you don't fit. Not supposed to
100%.
fit everywhere.
100%. Back to that box analogy, right? You can go, right, cool, I can bring my whole me into wherever I work
Yeah,
or do your own thing, right? And
yeah,
one thing that I want to ask you about, Kristen, is you mentioned the word confidence. Is this something that you've always, I mean, you're very confident,
yeah.
but was this in your childhood as well? Or was there a point in your life that you were actually actively going to go, I actually want to change the world, the way the world sees me, and I'm going to own this confidence persona and live it?
Yeah, it's such a good question, right? Because I suppose I've only recently realized myself the answer to that question.
Oh, great.
Right.
Perfect.
And yeah. So if I reflect back, as a child, I was confident all the time, right? Like even growing up, if I think about what I did during, my childhood years, is I was always playing schools, right? I had a
Yeah.
little, my dad was a builder, so we were very lucky, and he built me like this little playhouse out the back, and in there, Kristen ran schools, and all the kids in the neighborhood would come round on school holiday and on the weekends to play schools from school,
As,
you know.
as you would, right?
And I would set them homework. When I listen now, I think of myself, oh my God, like, oh. And I was always teacher, right? And
Yeah.
so I was confident in pulling it together. I was confident in standing up in front of this class, at my little class in my neighborhood, right? Confident to travel overseas, like to Australia when I was younger. I was confident with joining like Irish dancing with no Irish dancing heritage, not even knowing, and being really good at it. Um, so when I look back, I definitely was confident, but I didn't probably know why I was,
Yeah.
right? And when I look back now, the what I see is that what I realized I used to do was I used to bring all my proof points up. I'd
Yeah.
elevate them.
Yeah.
Do you know? So I wasn't afraid of celebrating my milestones, or like if I'd got like a great feedback in my appraisal for work, really celebrating and owning it, and then acknowledging that this is just one little piece of the puzzle, and I'm allowed to celebrate it and go, yay! Do you know? So I didn't know it when I was growing up at all. I just thought it was, it was just me, and maybe I've been told, you're bossy, and I am bossy. And I love it now. Like, I just get really offended when people used to call me bossy. Like, oh, I think I'm bloody bossy. But actually, damn right I'm bossy. Because I use my initiative, I take charge. If I see that people are holding back, I'm quite happy to step in.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean at times I don't get uncomfortable, because look, still got this bloody red stuff going on my neck, right? So it's not like I'd still get nerves, but there's
Yeah.
something in me that is not afraid just to put myself out there. Because yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know.
And that's
Did I
so
answer your
that's
question?
oh that's so true. I mean, there's no right or wrong here, but you failed. Sorry. But you know what's really what I loved about that whole that answer was that we all have data points in our life that we can call on, but a lot of us don't do that. In my coaching world, when I'm doing client coaching, you feel the same as well. People always look at the negative data point and not the positive. And when you ask them to write on a piece of paper, the
Yeah.
positive data points far exceed the negative ones. But what happens is people just say this is just normal because they've
Mm,
just been conditioned to think this is normal. But actually, it's not normal because what strengths you bring, Kristen, versus what I bring are two very very different things. And which
yeah.
is why when I work with some of my clients and I ask them about when they're writing a CV or whatever, I just say you're not writing your CV. You're going to get five of your friends to write your CV for you, or whatever, or
Yeah.
whatever. And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Yeah, because you're just going to write the normal stock standard things.
Yeah.
But your friends are going to tell you things." And I did this with a young group of people. It wasn't about a CV, it was just about a testimonial for themselves. So,
Yeah.
when you go to school, you get testimonials. Like, forget about the school testimonial. I want you to get five of your friends to write a testimonial about you and to give you data, like to actually give you
The
evidence.
data.
The actual data, not just like, oh, Kristen's amazing.
Evidence.
So cool. Okay, cool. I know she's amazing, but and it just changes the way you look at yourself because you don't realize the things that you think are normal are actually not normal to everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. So two things on that you've just said that sparked myself is that the first one is like it's that confidence comes with the evidence, right? And it's about elevating that evidence to demonstrate how you've done things and how you've won things, right?
Yes, totally.
Um, oh God, I've got menopause brain fog. I tell you, look, it just kicked in. This happened the other week, actually. I was like introducing people, and then I was like, what was I supposed to do? And they were like, introduce people. I was like, oh, sorry. Oh, no, I can't remember what I was going to say. Anyway, it will
That,
come back to
that,
me.
that's all right. That's all. I think we're just talking. I was talking about CVs and people writing their put it on
Oh,
the
that's right.
CVs.
Thank you. Thank you. I got it now. See, is that one of the things that started to really shift about how I started to look at myself more recently was the fact that because I've been helping people with careers and stuff like that and writing a lot of CVs and stuff, and particularly in the last year while I was out of the corporate world and just freelancing, was that I got people to give me feedback. So after every client, I would go and ask for feedback. So, so what happened is that because I was going out and asking for feedback, I was getting this regular feedback all the time. And it really gave me a boost, right? And it made me really look at the value that I was bringing to the table, right? And I think about one of my clients and her her analogy like just sits with me, and that is she said I was like the boxing ring coach, right? Like, if you imagine the boxing ring, right? And someone's going, so the fighter is my client. This is what she described. And she said that, it's like I'm in this boxing ring. And she said, and you're in the corner and you're shoving the drink bottle in my mouth and you're giving me the pep talk in my ear. And then you're shoving my mouth guard in my mouth and pushing me out there and going, go and do it. You can do it. And she said, and then I'm getting in there, and that's her applying for a job, right? That was her
Yeah,
experience. And when she described that, I'm like, damn right I am. That's exactly what I do, right? Like I am in their corner telling them and reminding them, this is why you're really good at what you do. Remember, this X, Y, Z. And remember, this is what you're working on, A, B, C, right? So it's nice and balanced. So we're not just kind of showing off or being arrogant. We're being humble because we all have things that we're working on, that we're trying to do better. And so, but we want to be confident with what we're selling and
yeah,
celebrate it first, right? And this piece is just about the acknowledgement. So as I've gone out and got all this feedback, and because it's more regular than what I would have done in the corporate world, right? If I think back in my career, I've had a couple of 360s, right? So 360 degree where everyone gives you feedback. I think I've done that twice, so not a lot, right?
yeah,
That was
yeah,
really. I obviously get team engagement scores, right?
yeah,
And but that's like you have to take that with a grain of salt, right?
yeah,
Because people get confused about how they rate. So, they might the question might be asking them to rate about like their actual team, and which is what I'm leading, but then they start rating the organization, so they get
yeah,
confused by the layers. And I've always had good results, good engagement results, especially when I've taken over a team. It's been really low, being able to ramp it up. And apart from feedback that you get, but you don't actually proactively go out and ask for feedback all the time,
yeah,
right? And so I went from asking for hardly any feedback to asking feedback from every single client. So it meant I had this flood of evidence coming. And I
yes,
think what it did is it really kind of made me see the value that I bring, right? And to me, that just signifies my point of you need the evidence.
yeah,
When you have the evidence, like you can't argue with it. And that's when I say to people when we write this CV, we want to make it not just a list of all your jobs that you've had. Like it used to be like that once upon a time. Like it was just a brief, I worked from here, this is what I did. Really basic. I said it needs to be a story about you and your career and who you are as a person, but on paper.
yeah,
And that way it describes everything you've done, not just what you've done, how you've done it, the impact that you've had. It's even got a bit of your frameworks in there. And I said, and then that way it's it's evidence. You cannot argue with it.
yeah,
It's
that's right.
all the proof points,
Yeah,
And so because I had to think about how do I help people believe that stuff that we write together, right? Because some people, even though they see it, they don't believe it,
yep,
right? But to me, this is where we don't worry about the behavior. We instill the belief first. So we
yeah,
instill the belief, we use evidence to cement the belief, and then we focus on shifting the behavior so that people get the confidence because they know then they've got the stability and the proof that they can lean on. And the relief that comes with that. So I don't know where we were going with this, or
But it doesn't matter. I think that. Oh, I think the key was it.
menopausal brain, I tell
No,
you.
I think that the key point was the evidence, right? That when the evidence doesn't lie, facts don't lie. Opinions, we can all have an opinion,
Yeah,
but a fact is a
yeah,
fact. And when you
that's
have
it.
that, and also, for anyone that's listening as well, is this is how you can think about your own life as well. When if you whatever you're going to make a change in your life, look at the evidence and the data that
Yeah,
shows that actually. But also, for example, what you shouldn't do. So for example, you think that, oh, I want to become a insert XYZ here, but
yeah,
all the data shows that this is not actually your jam. And you look at that,
yeah,
you should also look at it and go, actually, the data is telling me not to go into that, but my friends say this, but actually my data is saying this here. You should trust the data because the data is the data.
yeah. And and I think what it is though is that people almost dismiss it. Like
So,
they dismiss the data, or because something comes really easy for them, it gets downplayed.
yeah, that's
And
right.
because that's what because if I think about the common thing I hear is, oh, but that's just my job.
Yep,
And I'm like, no, 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 no. I said, like, obviously, if you've delivered a task and everyone's delivering the same kind of task, that is you delivering your job. But how did you do it? Did
yeah,
you just railroad people and didn't give a hoot about how everyone was feeling about this piece of work? Or did you get all the stakeholders involved and get their opinions and, really get that buy-in? Or did you like just said, oh, this is what I'm doing and just do it? Or did you
yeah,
socialize lots of it? Like, what what does that look like? And what I find is that people do all that behavior stuff without even realizing, right? Because if you think about it, and what I like to say is, if I throw you a hot potato right now, you'll react, but you won't think about how you're reacting,
yep,
right? And then it's like, so to me, it's about unpacking that reaction,
yes,
right? And
so
so
true.
one of the questions I say to people is, what's something that you do that comes super easy, like literally you're like standing there and thinking, I don't know why people don't know this shit. Like, so that was one of the questions I used to say to myself about writing CVs and getting shortlisted, right? I have always found it relatively easy. I don't mean to sound like cocky or arrogant because I have had rejections, right? I verbal vomited in an interview, like literally. I have turned up and didn't answer any of the questions because I didn't really understand what they were asking me. But on the whole, I've had a lot of success, right? And it's been relatively easy. A couple of goes and I'm in. And so one of the things, so I find it easy, right? And so I've grown up and throughout my whole life, pretty much until, about 2 years ago, that I've realized that it comes easy. So why does this come easy for me?
Yeah,
Like no one told me what to do. So no one from school, like when I left school, we all got given the templates, and Kristin did what everyone else did, and that was I added to that template for years, right? Literally for 15 years. And at times when I didn't know what to put on my CV, I even went and got my job description and copied it into my CV, right? And I know there's so many people who have done that because they're like, I don't even know what to put on it. So it's not like I did know some things, but then I didn't, right? But the question is that whatever comes easy, to me, that is your gift.
yeah,
That is your talent. That is your natural talent. That is you just in your zone, right? And to not downplay that. It can be the tiniest thing, right? But that gift, and I call it a gift because it is, because you might not see it as one to begin with, because I never saw this as a gift. I saw the fact that I can get jobs relatively easy and know how to put my best foot forward. I have learned through feedback, don't get me wrong, but do you know, it comes easy for me, but no one taught me, no one gave me any advice, right? I just had to figure it out myself, and I reckon it's because it's my gift,
yeah,
right? And initially, I used to downplay it because I was like, "Nah, it's nothing. It's it's, like I do this once in a blue moon whenever I want to change jobs, right? But because it comes easy,
Yeah.
my belief is that that is my gift and my natural talents, and that is what, to me, you want to monetize or leverage
Yeah.
or use to your advantage, right? And so the question I always ask people, what's something that you do that comes easy? Like super easy that you're like, didn't anyone ever teach you that stuff? Was it that? I remember thinking, did people just not learn what I've learned maybe? Maybe I learned something at college that I can't remember
Yeah.
that made me do this. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not. It's just that, I believe it is a bit of my natural talent. And it's taken me a long time to figure that out, right? Like,
Yeah.
and to actually go, I'm okay with that. That's cool, actually. Good on you, Kristen. That's what people are going to remember you for. Do you know, when you're no longer on this earth?
Yeah.
Is the fact that, she was able to help us kind of put our best foot forward, and it was easy for her.
Yeah.
When things are easy, you enjoy it. When you enjoy it, it doesn't feel like it's a task or doesn't feel like it's work. Do you know? And it lights you up because it's
100%.
easy. It's in
100%.
flow, right?
100%.
And we just think, I don't know, there's so many people who downplay all these like things that are easy. And I'm like, when I'm talking with people, I'm like, oh, stop. You've just said something that you said was really easy. That's it. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, that was nothing. And I'm like, no, 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 we need to unpack that.
Yeah.
What comes easy for you?
I mean, I
Yeah.
just talking to people. I've been talking to people and teaching. I love teaching. Teaching people and working with people and just getting people into the next level, which is why I enjoy coaching. I enjoy working with young people. I enjoy doing the podcast. It just comes through. People say to me, "Oh, how do you just jump on and talk to randoms?" I was like, "No, that's how can't you not just jump on and talk to randoms?"
That's right. Like how like so you're saying the classic stuff, right? Like, well, how could you? Like it's easy,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly.
But that to me is your strength. It's a beautiful gift that you've been given, and I love the fact that you are using that gift to then share more messages, right? It's like you're doing it. This clearly doesn't feel like work to you, right?
Doesn't feel like no, it doesn't feel like work at all.
No.
At all, zero. It's zero work. Yeah. But
Yeah.
again, this is one thing that I really resonate with you when I talk to people, when I'm coaching them with young people. It's let's take away the noise. I used the word noise before
Yeah.
as well, and let's take away the noise and just if you had a blank sheet and it was just you in the room, what would come easy? What just lights you up? Like literally
Mm,
lights you up, and be unashamedly proud of whatever it is. And it could be the fact that hey,
yeah.
you love drawing flowers. Cool, that
Yep.
comes to it's so easy. Cool, awesome. Now, how do you, as you said, how do you monetize that? Because if you think about this is basically ikigai, right? This is the whole ikigai model that you go, what is your passion and how do you monetize it? And there's ways to do it. So
Yeah.
and I love and again your whole passion that came through as you answer that is so easy and so obvious. So
Yeah.
and I love and for full disclosure, I know that you do some awesome work because you've done some pretty cool things with some people that I know. So yeah, that's really cool. Um, but I want to touch on some other things here. We spoke
Go.
about leadership, and what are some of the hardest things that you had to face in your leadership journey? Because we spoke all the awesomeness, but as you said
Mm,
before, there's also hardship. What is as a leader and becoming a
yeah.
leader, and what are some of the things that people don't tell you about, but it's quite challenging?
So one of the things people don't tell you about is that no one gives you a bloody manual, right? Like, so it's literally like it being a parent, right? So you literally get given this baby and you're like, okay, you kind of
Now
know what
what?
to do.
Now
Like
what? Yeah,
you kind of know what to do. You can watch a few videos, you get lots of advice, but no one's there to help you step through it, right? And so to me, if I think about me and my journey of being a leader, I literally had to learn on the job through feedback. To me, that is what a leader does, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, so challenges is not knowing what you should focus on. It's like,
yeah,
oh my goodness, until the boss has spoken with you, whoop, shivers, I better get that done,
yeah,
right? And, but the way I've always probably thought about it is, it's a bit like having a house. So you want to make sure you got, good structure and good foundations, and then, then you can decide the paint, the color of the rooms, and what we're going to put in things. And to me, being a leader is like building the house from ground up. So it doesn't matter whether you inherit a team or you are pulling the team together for the first time. To me, you go in and you make sure all the foundations are all established. If I think about what I'm doing in my new role, that's exactly what I'm doing, establishing all the foundations, making
Yeah.
sure they're solid, right? Because we want to
Yeah.
build above
Build
them.
up. Yeah.
Above. But no one encourages you to start there. Because when you're given a job, you just get thrown in, like
Yeah.
figure it out, right? So I wish there was more leaders who would share their wisdom and tips with more junior staff,
Yeah.
right? More junior leaders to help them navigate some of the complexities. Because one of the things I really struggled with at the beginning was how to deal with conflict when you're the
Yeah.
leader and the
Yeah.
staff member. Do you know, and I'll give a great story where, oh my goodness, I tell you. So I'm like 18 months into my leadership journey. So I'm really young. It's to me, that's very immature, like maturity wise for my leadership experience. And I get this new job, and I take the new job because my daughter was a tot, right? So it meant that we could be 5 minutes away from home. It was
Yeah.
great. So I was moving from in the city to out in the suburbs where I lived. I dropped in pay. So I dropped a couple of grand in pay. And back then, I was only paid like $40,000 as a bloody team leader.
Yeah.
So dropping a couple of grand was a lot. I lost annual leave as well. So I used to get like 4 weeks, dropped back down to 3 weeks. But dropping back, I took that role because one, it meant I could give me my balance with my daughter. But two, they signaled that there was opportunity for growth and development. And that to me was worth more annual leave and more money than anyone could pay me.
Yeah.
So, so signed up, right? And this is out in the area that I live in, okay, where I grew up, where I went to school. Do you know where everyone, it's a small community. I live from Porirua, like I grew up in Titahi Bay. I'm a Bay girl. And blow behold, I start my new job, and one of the girls I used to go to school with is in my team, and I was
Oh,
just like,
wow.
oh, do you
There we
know?
go.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so immediately that imposter syndrome was massive. It was like off the Richter scale because, all of a sudden I'm this person's boss.
Yeah.
And I had to do things as leaders do that we don't really want to do. Like we had to have conversations about attendance, and we had to have conversations about sick leave and all that type of stuff. And I was never taught how to have those conversations. And so they were so challenging, is to tie myself up in knots. And also because of, um, obviously I was young, and so I didn't really know how to articulate myself that well. You know, People who were smarter than me could outsmart me, and I was their boss.
Yeah.
And it made me just feel like I was bloody hopeless, right? But once I learned how to have that conversation, and I actually learned how to have those conversations only like since I was working at ACC, just want to say. So, look, so I was at ACC for 8 years, right? So it took me years to learn. We're talking like that must be like 20 years. Um, do you know, I won't say I'm a slow learner, but it took me a while to click on. And it was when one of my colleagues, actually, who I highly admire, and she turned and said, oh, you know how I have these conversations? If we've got to have a sick leave conversation or an attendance or a performance conversation. I was like, how? And she's like, oh, I just tell them I don't really want to have this conversation because I don't.
Yeah.
But actually, I have to because you know what? If I don't have the conversation, my boss is going to have a conversation with me, and that ain't happening.
Yeah.
So let's have this conversation, right? About whatever it is. And I was like, from that moment, I was like, wish someone had told me that 20 years ago. Would have saved me
Yeah.
a lot of headache, right? Just having a way to deal with like getting stuff tabled. Um, so if I think about imposter syndrome, boy, when I started that job, it was major because I was one of the youngest in the team. and I was leading lots of people who were older than me. And, I grew up in the age where people older than you gave instant respect for. I remember standing up on the bus and train for people who were older than me,
Yeah.
right? If they look slightly older, you should get up. You're
Yeah.
younger. You do, you be respectful. So coming in and trying to lead as a female who was young, and like people would say, oh, you look too young as well. So, they're even thinking I was younger than I was, used to really make me question, who am I to do this? What the hell? And I struggled with that for such a long time. So yeah. So like, you know, how to have that conversation. Just say, well, my boss is going to have a conversation with me, so that ain't happening. So let's have
Yeah.
it. Simple as that.
And what I love about that is it's the assumption that just because you get a leadership position, you know how to be a leader.
That's
It's a
right.
huge assumption, right? Okay, cool. So, for example, I see this happen many times where someone is amazing at their job, whatever the job is. Let's just take an engineer, for example.
Oh yeah,
They're amazing at an engineer, then all of a sudden they're trusting me a manager, and they're like, I just wanted to be an engineer, guys. But now
yeah.
because I'm doing so well, I'm being punished by being
That
administrator, and this is an assumption. And you see this all the time, and then it's not their fault that they're doing a bad job because that wasn't the job they wanted in the first place. And secondly, nobody has coached them or mentored them on what that actually looks like.
yeah,
And then they look like they're again the imposter syndrome. I'm doing a bad job comes into play. So it's crazy how the leadership positions, when especially those first few ones,
yeah,
can really throw you if you don't have the correct mentor or the correct coaching around you.
yeah. The having the right leader to coach and guide you is super crucial.
Yeah,
Like I cannot emphasize that enough. I have been very fortunate. I've had some amazing leaders that I've learned from. Do you know? I think about my last boss,
yeah,
right? He was significantly younger than me, and I used to joke that I could have been his mother.
mhm,
Do you know? I would have been just saying 15, 16, but I could have been, right?
yeah,
My mum had me at 16,
yeah,
right? So it's not unrealistic.
yeah,
And I used to call him the young gun, right? In a positive way, because I was like, man, I'm learning so much about you, like how to do things. And I think working with him, it was amazing. Like I learned the importance of having a narrative, right? And getting people hooked on a particular story, right? And a narrative, and you can drive that narrative. I'd give him some updates on performance or stuff. He'd hook onto it. If I'd give him a number, and next minute it was all over the organization. I'd be like, whoa, right?
wow,
Because he was very good at spinning the same narrative. And so I learned the power of that. And he was significantly younger than me. So, you can learn from those who are younger, less inexperienced. You
yeah,
don't have to be old. Like to me, like that's the old mentality of
yeah,
you're if you're old, you're the wisest, you know best. Likewise, when I think it's very old school where people used to come into teams. They'd be like the technical teams in the technical teams, and then the person that would get promoted would be the most technical person, right? And they
yeah,
become like
yeah,
a technical manager, but they didn't want to be the manager.
yeah,
Now, when to me, businesses and teams are looking to hire leaders, people who
yeah,
can lead, inspire, motivate, right? And then letting the people who are very good at doing the work do the work, right? Because like I'm not a good doer. I can take lots of phone calls,
yeah,
and I used to easily distract people. I remember like one of my girlfriends sit next to me and goes to me one day, Kristin, can I be really brutally honest with you? And I went, yeah, like absolutely. And she just says, can you just shut up? And I went, oh, well, she goes, you're really distracting. She said, you can talk and work quite fast. I can't. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry. It's like, just, it doesn't hurt. It's good.
yeah. It's great. But again, it's because you're open to the feedback. And it's the kind of relationship that you have, which makes
Yeah.
things. If you take things away from being personal, And I think this is the thing that we have to all realize as humans, that sometimes feedback is not personal, it's just a performative, and sometimes we put the two together and then people will get upset about things. And yes, I know we're all humans and we do get annoyed, but if you just step
Yeah,
away and go, are they actually talking about me as a person or my job? And those are two different things because you're not your job.
yeah, yeah. And all
Yeah,
feedback hurts. Like,
yeah,
I say
yeah.
to people, doesn't matter what it is, where it comes from, all feedback hurts, right? Because it's almost like there's a part of it that gets to the core of who you are, like your integrity almost. And it's questioning some things, but not to see it like that.
That's right,
Do you know?
exactly.
I kind of go, I have to, and I have to, all right, if I hear something that's not that great, where my expectations of myself were higher and maybe I've missed the mark, right? Or I never meant to say something or that was to offend someone, and then I have, is initially I had this initial reaction of, oh, shivers, and I feel very hurt. But it's almost like you have to sit with that.
Yes, yeah,
And then to be able to move forward, you have to kind of make some sense of it.
yeah.
And
That's
once
so
you've made
true.
some sense of it, it's almost like getting it some clarity and then moving through it. And that the brave part is moving through it and not staying with it.
That's
Because
right.
it does hurt and it still hurts. But as soon as you start moving through it, it gets less and you get over it. And the reality is that people don't remember. Do you
Yeah,
know, like after a while, it's not the flavor of the month and people will move on. Do you
that's
know?
right. Yeah, that's right. That whole spotlight effect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy, crazy. Kristen, we've been speaking for over an hour, and I knew
Oh my
this would be
goodness, we
this,
have.
which is great, and I love it because I knew this would be a great conversation. But I am also mindful of your time and respect your time.
Thank
So I'd
you.
love to ask you one final question.
Okay.
You've shared so much today, and we've only touched not even the tip, but the tip of the tip of the iceberg of you and how awesome you are in your world as well. But the question we have for you is, every podcast guest we invite, we ask them this question here. Our podcast is called Baskets of Knowledge, and we invite our guests to share a piece of knowledge that you can put into our kete, our
Yeah.
basket. For myself, for our listeners, you've shared so much today, but if there's one piece of knowledge to chuck into our basket, what would that be?
What would that be? Oh gosh, I should have gone and listened to some previous, then I would have known this question. No, do you know what I would have done then? Is I would have overthought it.
100%.
Yeah. So I'm glad I haven't. Right. One piece of knowledge. Let me think. I think if it was one thing, it would be, I think it was to know how to put your best foot forward with everything that you do, right? And so I suppose the biggest thing for me is about making sure you've always got evidence, right? Evidence is what's going to give you confidence. Confidence is then going to allow you to take some action. Action is then going to allow you to get more evidence.
Yeah,
And so if you just keep focusing on getting the evidence that gives you the confidence, that helps you take the action, then to me, you just keep strengthening it and strengthening it and strengthening it. To me, a lot of things fall down because we don't have the evidence and the proof. And the easiest way I love to go and get that evidence is to go, what are the things that I'm really proud of? You know, where you've rung your mum and dad and said, hey, this happened today. This is awesome, right? Even with something with the kids. So what are you proud of? Um, where have you had really good feedback, right? And what are the gaps that you have identified, right? So where you've used your initiative at home, at work, at church, anywhere where you've spotted something and you've been able to make things a bit better, use those questions to help you gather the evidence. Because it's not just about in your CV and your career, it's also about, the evidence around if you see a gap in your family around, actually, I think we need to be playing games more, right? I think we need to come together and have more connection. Let's have a Friday games night, right? Like that to me is a gap that you've identified. And to get the evidence. And I like evidence as writing it down. I write everything down, everything. So that would be my advice is get the evidence. The evidence will give you the confidence, and the confidence will allow you to take action. And action is what will help you move forward. And you just keep doing it. Gather all the evidence, and then you celebrate it and share how amazing you are, right? Because everyone is so amazing. Everyone has so many blooming great skills and talents. They're all so unique. I think that's why I love doing my coaching so much, because I sit there and I'm listening. I'm like in awe of their career and what people have achieved. Because one of the things I remember when I started coaching certain type of client who I had some work through one of the agencies in Wellington, and I was like, who am I to be career coaching these people, right? Because these were amazing, super uber intelligent, and I was just like, but it was because, obviously I had some skills and talent. So I would get the evidence after each client, and that would give me confidence to help me take action and go, yes, I have more of those clients. Thank you. So that would be my advice.
And that's so practical and so usable. We can all do it from today. We can all just get a piece of paper and start writing it out. Or as you said, put your best foot forward and start finding the evidence as well, So I love that then. And I love it because it's not just about work, it's about life.
Yeah.
Any aspect of your life, which is really, really beautiful. And, as I think about that and I think about, what can I do in my world to get that evidence in whatever aspect it is, it's really beautiful. Thank you, Kristin, for that. That's a really powerful piece of knowledge to put into our basket. We haven't had that before. So in fact, this is the crazy thing. We've had 180 episodes and every single person has given us something totally different. So,
wow.
which is, as you said, for the beauty about everyone having their own story and their own experiences.
Yeah.
So it's really awesome.
Well,
Beautiful,
Kristin.
No worries. Thank you for jumping on. For our listeners out there, hopefully you've enjoyed listening to this podcast. Hopefully you have felt the infectious energy that has come through your ears, or if you're watching it on YouTube, you've seen the excitement. And as you leave the podcast today, don't forget to find a reason to smile. Don't forget to put something into basket of knowledge. And as Kristin said, don't forget to find the evidence that shows you how awesome you are in your world. And take that first step forward. Till next time, thank you, Kristin. Until next time, talk to everybody. Stay safe and peace.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.